Vietnam gearing up for general elections. Women fight on for damages over Vietnam War use of Agent Orange. Credit institutions asked to tighten loans in overheating sectors. Facebook fined for spreading fake news about COVID-19 in Hanoi. Hello, welcome to FBNC News. Now, Hanoi is shutting down all beer clubs under a decision released on May 11 as part of its effort to combat the ongoing COVID-19 outbreak. All beer clubs will be closed until further notice, while temporarily street markets and vendors will be removed from outdoor areas to prevent the spread of the coronavirus, according to an official document signed by Vice Chairman of the Municipal People's Committee Chu Xuân on suspending high-risk activities in the capital. The decision is effective from the date of issue. Since late last month, Hanoi has suspended the operations of a number of non-essential establishments, including sidewalk eateries, karaoke parlors, bars, cinemas, gyms, spas, and stadiums, in response to the new COVID-19 outbreak. Courts in administrative units under social distancing due to COVID-19 will suspend all trials and the settlement of legal cases from May 12 to May 31st, except in emergencies, according to a document issued by the Supreme People's Court on May 11. Such emergencies include cases that are near deadlines and those relating to disputes in connection with the list of voters for the upcoming elections, COVID-19 prevention and control. When trials are held, it is a must to follow the Ministry of Health's 5K message, including face masks, disinfection, distancing, no gatherings, and health declarations, and maintain physical distancing of at least 2 meters. Courts will also suspend the reception of lawsuits and citizen reception at their headquarters, and staff members should shift to working from home. Online trials can be held where conditions allow. Now, as many as 1,500 frontline employers of national flag carrier Vietnam Airlines are being vaccinated against COVID-19 from May 13th to 20th. They comprise pilots, flight attendants, and ground staff who have frequent contact with passengers. The inoculation using the AstraZeneca vaccine is carried out at the vaccination center of the Hanoi-based Vietnam National Children's Hospital, with about 250 people to get the jabs each day. Vietnam Airlines is the country's first air carrier to arrange the vaccinations for both the flight crew and ground handling workers. Earlier, nearly 800 employees of the Vietnam Airlines group at Tân International Airport in Ho Chi Minh City and Vinh Airport in central Nghệ An province were inoculated. The latest vaccination program will raise the number of the inoculated personnel of the group, consisting of Vietnam Airlines, Pacific Airlines, and Vasco, to nearly 2,300. The Vietnam Airlines group is to keep working with relevant agencies to expand the vaccine coverage to all the staff using its welfare fund. Together with existing anti-COVID-19 measures, the carrier expects the vaccinations will help protect its staff, passengers, and the community from the disease and encourage air travel. You're watching FBNC News. Now, Vietnam is gearing up for 2021 general elections as the country plans to hold the elections for the National Assembly and People's Council on 23rd of May this year. All localities nationwide have completed preparations and stood ready for the election of deputies. Prime Minister Phạm Minh Chính on Monday called on ministries, ministerial level agencies, and government agencies to develop scenarios to hold the upcoming elections amid the COVID-19 pandemic. The Prime Minister, speaking while chairing a cabinet meeting on election preparations, asked the Ministry of Health to clarify criteria for localities to determine what constitutes an outbreak hit locality and appropriate measures to deal with the situation. Meanwhile, the Ministry of Information and Communications and press agencies were urged to expand dissemination on the elections and disease prevention and control measures via all means of communications. The Ministries of National Defense and Public Security should stay ready to ensure security, safety, and order at polling stations from now until the election day, May 23rd. People's committees must work closely with the organizations in charge of the election work in localities, ensure facilities, technology, and equipment for the elections, and focus on pandemic prevention and control. Given the complex developments of the pandemic, the government leader emphasized the need for a written request to the National Election Council requiring specific regulations on how to hold meetings with voters and voting in an appropriate form. The Ministry of Home Affairs suggested voters to go to vote at arranged times to ensure safe distance and a proper number of people at an election place at a specific time. A representative from the Ministry of Public Security said specific scenarios were needed for each voter places and each province, particularly locked down areas or concentrated quarantine areas. An elderly French-Vietnamese woman vowed on Tuesday, May 11, to pursue her legal fight to obtain compensation for health problems, which she says were caused by exposure to the toxic herbicide Agent Orange during the Vietnam War. Earlier this week, a French court rejected a lawsuit filed by 79-year-old Tran To Nga against 14 chemical companies, but she told reporters she would appeal.
On m'a demandé depuis hier si je suis triste ou non. Je voudrais vous confirmer tout de suite que je suis déçue. Je suis même en colère, mais je ne suis pas triste.
U.S. warplanes dropped about 18 million gallons of Agent Orange, so-called because it was stored in drums with orange bands between the early 1960s and early 1970s to defoliate jungles and destroy victim crops.
La cause est juste parce que la vérité est à nous. Donc, c'est pour la justice, c'est pour la vérité, c'est pour les gens plus malheureux que nous avançons.
THØNG, who worked as a journalist and activist in Vietnam in her 20s, has said she suffers from effects including type 2 diabetes and a rare insulin allergy.
Pendant la guerre, j'étais journaliste comme vous et en partant pour les missions, j'étais toujours dans des zones épandées par l'aviation américaine, épandées de l'agent orange. C'est comme ça que j'ai été intoxiquée.
Her lawsuit, first filed in 2014, sought compensation from chemical firms including U.S. companies Dow Chemical and Monsanto, now owned by Germany's Bayer. Those multinational companies had argued that they could not be held legally responsible for how the U.S. military had decided to use their products. So far, only military veterans from the United States and other countries involved in the war have won compensation over Agent Orange. In 2008, a U.S. federal appeals court upheld the dismissal of a civil lawsuit against major U.S. chemical companies brought by Vietnamese plaintiffs. The United States has said there is no scientifically proven link to support the claims of dioxin poisoning of many Vietnamese plaintiffs. After that, the Vietnam Association for Victims of Agent Orange, AO, has affirmed it will provide spiritual and material support to Tran To Nga to continue her lawsuit against U.S. firms that manufacture the toxic AO defoliant used by U.S. forces during the war in Vietnam. Senior Lieutenant General Nguyễn, president of the VAVA, said he is not satisfied with the court's ruling, saying it is not persuasive considering the fact that the U.S. firms had manufactured about 18 million liters of the AO defoliant for U.S. forces to spray in the southern Vietnam, causing serious environmental and human health consequences. The VAVA backs THØNG's viewpoint and will provide both spiritual and material support for the Vietnamese French woman to continue pursuing the lawsuit. Used to be a plaintiff in the VAVA's 2004 lawsuit in the U.S., VAVA Vice President Nguyễn said she is not surprised at the Ovary Court's decision but felt sad as the court did not take into account AO victims of Vietnam and France. The lawsuit does not target the U.S. government but the U.S. firms for their irresponsibility, she further explained. THØNG graduated from a Hanoi university in 1966 and became a war correspondent of the Liberation News Agency. She worked in some of the most heavily AO dioxin-affected areas in southern Vietnam, such as CUțiC, Bến Cát, and along the Ho Chi Minh City Trail, ultimately experiencing contamination herself. She has been suffering from a number of acute diseases. Of her 3 children, the first died of heart defects and the second suffers from a blood disease. A grandchild of SºNG also suffers from AO-related illnesses. With the support of several non-governmental organizations, she filed the lawsuit against the U.S. companies for causing lasting harm to the health of herself, her children, and countless others, and of destroying the environment. Now, the State Bank of Vietnam SBV has requested local credit institutions and foreign banks restrict lending concentration for real estate, construction, consumption sectors and build, operate, transfer BOT projects. After an investigation, potential risks have been found in several credit institutions that have provided lending to investment and trading in real assets and securities, according to the SBV. It reports that non-performing loan ratios of some credit institutions are higher than previous years. The credits for the real estate sector accounts for a large ratio in the non-performing loans. Investment in corporate bonds for the use of real estate development and trading also accounts for a high proportion of loans. The State Bank requires all credit institutions to strictly oversee loan use purpose and the disbursement of credit for large-scale real estate projects. In addition, commercial banks must strengthen supervision and risk prevention measures. They are asked to carefully consider providing loans for real estate projects in overheating areas with potentially high risks. Regarding lending for the needs of daily life, the SBV asks all credit institutions to carefully review those who are eligible for loans to avoid creating risks and strengthen supervision of the use of loans. Credit institutions must also arrange capital sources to offer borrowers for the demands of their daily life and monitor lending quality for consumption purposes and strengthen activities of internal audits. Concerning lending for securities, commercial banks must control the growth rate of outstanding loans for securities investment and trading to avoid risks. Banks are required to comply with regulation on credit granting criteria and trading of shares, corporate bonds, and other related legal regulations. For build, operate, transfer (BOT) and build, transfer (BT) projects, credit institutions must balance their capital flow and use loans for medium and long-term projects to limit liquidity risks and continues to strictly comply with the instructions of the SBV. The Hanoi Department of Information and Communications has issued an administrative fine on Trần Văn Duy from Hoàng Mai District, born in 1982, for posting fake news online. Duy, the owner of the Facebook account Hanoi Phố, spread a video of Hanoi streets on May 4th entitled "Hanoi Streets Quiet on the First Day of Lockdown." After studying the information, department inspectors found it was incorrect and violated regulations stipulated in Article 5 of Government Decree No. 72, dated July 15, 2017, on managing, supplying, and using Internet services and information on the Internet. Based on Point 8, Clause 3, Article 99 of Decree No. 15 issued by the government on February 3, 2020, the department fined Duy 12.5 million Vietnam dong for his wrongdoings. He has removed the video from his Facebook account. It has come to an end of FBNC News this week. Thank you for joining us, and we'll look forward to seeing you again next time. Goodbye.